So today we're carrying on with this, filling our inner libraries and exploring books day by day. And I emphasize day by day because the clue to really getting children learning to read through reading, if you like, which is what I'm really interested in, and is sharing books with them regularly. It has to be a regular, ongoing thing. So it's day by day. So let's just recap first. I'm on top of my screen here. Where do we find compelling stories? We looked at last week, and I referred to this proverb: a little rain each day will fill the rivers to overflowing. Same as the one I want to go back to there. The little by little grow the bananas. It's the same thing. It's this drip feeding that we want to be having very, very present in our minds with children and books and reading with them. And then it's the tree which cannot stand without roots. So we need to root, we need to feed the roots, and that the good mother, however you want to think of the good mother, knows what her children will eat. And that implies that she knows the books that are out there. She knows what's good for them. She knows how to do it, how to find knowledge and information. And the way that happens is that if you link, always link, you are bringing about this sense of curiosity, you're building information, and you're growing knowledge. I also referred you to the significance and the wonderfulness of this Bib audio library, which has books that children and adults can now listen to, and hopefully that people are going to be able to have access to that and find ways to make it affordable. And then we started looking at where we find these stories. And I particularly showed you Meshach Asare, who's a very famous African. He represents children's literature in other parts of the world as a great Ghanaian writer. And we looked at a few of the versions of stories which in the North, they refer to them as African Cinderella stories, but actually Cinderella might be a Western or a European Natiki story, for example. Actually, it's just that Cinderella has become so well known. So here's a very thought-provoking quote, I thought, when we're thinking about reading aloud and reading books and choosing books. The books we read are no different from the people we meet and the cities we visit. Some books, people or places hardly matter. Others change our lives, and still others plant some idea or sentiment that influences our future. So I like the way this poet, Dana Gioai, I don't know how to pronounce the surname. I just like the way that we can think about the books that we choose as, having different impact on us. And of course, the same happens with children. Different books have different impacts on different people, some extremely profound and some less so. So yes, Arabella mentioned I was finishing off from last week where I was sharing all these links that I had collected about where one can access material in not only in our settings where we don't have that many books at hand, and this is for ourselves and for children, because we really are talking intergenerationally, and I don't think we talk enough about the fact that this is an intergenerational process. When we read aloud with children, it's about the adult and the child bringing what they have, remember, bringing their experience to the text, bringing their emotions to the text, and so on. So this collection here of African folktales is quite amazing if you're somebody who wants to go and find if you don't know them already, to go and find stories from the past, the great oral tradition. Many of them have been collected and written down and need, I believe, retelling, rewriting, being turned into picture books for children on the African continent. Some of them have been turned into picture books, but usually they find their way, they happen in the north and not here. So I will share these with you, but basically this is a lot of folk tales, fairy stories, basically from Africa. There's a lot in the US about Africa. These are just examples. Brittle Paper has got a very nice recent selection of children's books which come from Africa, and it might be useful for you to go and just look at, see what they're reviewing and what they're saying, see what you can access here. The same with this Africa Access Review. They're American, from an American perspective, but they're reviewing African children's books, and that can be useful for us. Sur Lane Fairy Tales, the top one here, is this incredible collection of stories and their different versions from all over the world. I have delved hugely into that because I find that very fascinating, the way that human beings across all kinds of borders telling their own culturally embedded stories, but with great themes that are similar, and that you can tell that we learn from one another around the world. Stories travel, and stories also originate with the same kind of ideas and themes in different contexts. So that's fascinating. Joy of Reading website has a huge collection of stories. These are unfortunately all in English that I'm talking about here. African American literature and storyline. This is something we need to do here in South Africa. And I know that Nalibali has started doing some read-alouds. There are other organizations as well. This uses actors who read at just a huge number of picture books online. And we don't want our African children to start speaking English with American accents, but nonetheless, it might be something to delve into at some point. Here's the top one here, the Idris Shah Foundation. He was a famous Indian storyteller and psychologist, and there's some books that you can look at online there. You can actually page through them, and they're children's books, and they're interesting, and it's a different perspective. It's the East and the West, if you like, also in English. Lantana Publishing, a very nice website to look at for inclusive books, multicultural books. We'll look more at that next week or the week after. And then finally, I just thought that this a Canadian publisher, also stories from around the world. And it's just interesting because it is through learning what others do that also what we want to use and want to do with books comes about. We kind of find ourselves in the collections from all over, including our very own collections from our settings. There are a few international children's book organizations which you might enjoy to have a look at if you haven't already. IBI is one of the biggest ones. We have the IBI in South Africa, the IBI sections in other African countries. IBI International is based in Switzerland, and they're about, I don't know how many countries. I think I mentioned that already. But the whole mission of IBI is to bring children and books together. And I might have mentioned already also that they do fund projects. So it's well worth getting to know the IBI programs. Alma is the biggest prize for children's literature. It's the Astrid Lindgren Memorial Award. Astrid Lindgren, who was a famous human rights advocate and wrote, I also mentioned this already, Pippi Longstocking and other books. Alma has got some material on their website talking about how we inspire young readers. On our website, actually on the PRAESA website, one of the stories of Astrid Lindgren's stories has been translated into isiXhosa. I can't think of its name offhand now, but it's a beautiful book. It's a beautiful read for adults and older children, and it's in isiXhosa, translated by Kolisa Guzula. It's free to download off our website. Okay, so that is just to show you that one can just go down many, many very rich and enriching tunnels, finding reading material, both for ourselves as adults interested in children's stories and for the children. Both are really important, that we come to see ourselves as people who are interested in the material. It's not just about picking up a book and shoving it at the child, because that won't work. Right, so by trying often, the monkey learns to jump from the tree. So again, this is me being very pedantic, if you like, saying it's the offenness, it's the day by day, it's the regularity of these things. Sharing a story as well doesn't have to become a lesson for it to help young children to learn to read and write. And you see, this is where the learning in school connects to the informal sharing. And the more one does it, the more one sees how children are learning and what they are learning, as you already saw in previous sessions a little bit, but it's this growing, this shoot. And Dorothy Butler wrote a wonderful book in 1980 called Babies Need Books. She talked about how there's nothing magic about the way contact with books in early years produces early readers. One would surely expect it to. A baby is learning about the way language arises from the page each time his or her parent opens a book from the earliest days. She or he is linking the human voice to the print at a very early age. Human voice to the print. Given repeated opportunities, he notices how the adults attend to the black marks, how you can't go on reading if the page is turned too soon. They start to learn all these concepts that I did already mention to you. I think it was last week or the week before, about the concepts of print. So let's have a look now. This little video is a clip from another one, which you can actually see the whole of on the PRAESA website, but it's a little boy, and he is at the reading club with his mum, and they are sharing a book. And I just want you to look at it as they're sharing the book, and if you like, in the chat, just write what you notice, anything. I'm not looking for any special responses here. The child, the adult, and the book. I keep on pressing this. Okay, I'm going to share it now. And I'm going to...
And now
I want to start
reading.
Sorry, I want
doesn't
to...
want to, raining or not.
There we go.
If it's Saturday, he wants to wake up early, come and read.
I
He can't read yet, but he reads pictures, just pages through the book. But to him, I think it's reading, because he's telling you what's happening in the picture.
They talk about the book in Xhosa and learn some new English words too.
The fact that he likes the book, I'm sure he'll grow up like that, knowing to read. I'm sure by the time he gets to grade R and grade 1, he'll be able to read.
Okay. Well, I apologize that it had to be a clip with my voice and even the granny, because I didn't really, I just wanted you to look at the mum and the child, that little clip. What did you notice there? Anything that you'd like to comment on? Yes, Boo, that the boy is leading in reading. Isn't that very apparent there? That little boy's energy is really pushing the whole thing along, and the mum is there giving. Friedrich Frobel talked about freedom with guidance. The mum is giving the little boy freedom, and she is guiding and going along with him. And yes, children are natural storytellers. I agree with that comment completely. And that little boy is hooked into whatever's going on those pages, and his excitement is totally contagious. I've watched that clip so many times, and it just fills me with complete joy. Right, Gugu, the child is pointing and naming. The mom affirms, exactly. So there's that pointing and that shared attention on what the child in this case is pointing to. And Joshua, the boy is picture reading. He's excited to move on while his mum is guiding him totally. So there's so this atmosphere that you see created by the mom, the child, and the book is not trivial. It is absolutely profound for the reading aloud experience. And Mem Fox, in her book Reading Magic, she does this nice illustration in this book where you see the book, the child, and the adult, and then the reading aloud becomes not necessarily hilarious and funny. It could be hilarious and funny. That's great if it is, but definitely something really stimulating, and it could be very quietly stimulating and interesting. Okay, so we don't in South Africa have a huge supply of baby and toddler books yet. And that is, for those of you who may be interested in making books, creating books for children, we really need baby books. These ones that I'm showing you here, and I could only find a German copy when I was looking there the other day. I now have found a Setswana version of it as well. These, unfortunately, are out of print already, but I do believe that Jacana publishers would publish if there was a demand, but they would publish in this form because they reprinted them in these little book forms. So instead of them being these tiny little board books, which is what we really do want for very small babies, we have we now have them because they're more affordable in this form. But we use what we can, and so that form is also absolutely usable. But I just thought that I'd use these as an example of showing you some of the kind of themes and things that and topics that occur in baby and toddler books. So feelings, emotions, just daily life, the kind of activities that babies do, affirming babies' lives and their abilities, counting, associations, curiosity. Here, I'll share this one with you now while we're looking at that. The counting one is this, in Afrikaans it's klop klop, in German klopf klopf, which I don't speak, but in Xhosa I think it is kron kron. I can't do the click as well as I should, but this one was one that I wrote, and it's just a little first book for babies and toddlers. And here we've got klop klop, or knock knock, and Little baby goes to the thing. Oh, look, one. What is that over there? What do you see over there? Yeah, I think it might be a bone. Who would be at the door wanting a bone? Shall we see? Ah, hello, hond. Hello, dog. Molo inja, I think. Pop, pop. Ah, look, 2. What have we got here? What can you see? 2 eggs. Shall we count the eggs? 1, 2. What could be behind the door if there are 2 eggs there? Hello, hen. And so on. I'm just sharing it with you in a way that maybe one might with a little child or a toddler or even a baby. If it were a baby, you might just point to it. You might say, look at the 2 eggs there. And look, there's the hen. And what noise does the hen make? Buck, 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 buck. That's right. Hello, hen. Buck, buck, buck. And then we've got 3, and you can see the pattern that's being built up here. 3 bottles of, hello, cow. And what does cow say? Moo. And I wonder at the end who's coming to see baby. Who would baby really be keen to see? She's got 1, 2, 3. And if you have a little toddler here with you who knows the book, they'll push your hand away and they'll say 1, 2. They'll want to do it. So it's that kind of freedom with guidance where you start, you demonstrate, you role model, you interact, you pointing, you showing, and then the little one takes over. And who's there? Hello, mama. There we are, the mom's there. So very simple little few word book there. There's several of these. We did 1, 2, 3, 4 sets actually, and clothes, getting dressed, preparing, eating, the kind of, let's have a look at, I think I was going to look at these a bit later on. Actually, let's carry on. I'll maybe look at some more later on. But those are some of the themes and topics. And then the last 2 sets were actually more for toddlers and little older children, really. I could only find one of those, which is because these are out of print and they've been given away, we don't have them, but they are potentially available in all 11 South African languages. This is the one that's Animals by Jude Daly. And you often find that in these little books for toddlers and little children, there's things to find and to look at, even if it's not mentioned in the text, as in this one. We don't have anything said on the page except for cock-a-doodle-doo. So you've got the noise, you've got the rooster, and then you've got cock-a-doodle-doo, but we can see the big yellow sun is telling you the story, and here come the animals, okay? And I don't know if you can see them, so tiny there, but you've got a whole little row of animals marching along, giving a hint, really, perhaps, of, if you see there, who's the first little animal there? Of cat. And there we go, meow, says cat. And what does dog say? Look. Now, if I was with a little child, I'd say, look, that says dog. And look, there's the dog. Because you want your baby or your child to make the link, the connection between the word and the picture. And, oh, where's your doggy? Go find your dog or whatever. You know, when you see the dog, remember the real dog, the picture of the dog, the word of the dog. We are symbolic beings, and we're able to make these connections from very, very early on. So woof, woof, says the dog. And in fact, the child might want to go back to there and check who was second. Yes, it was dog who was coming along second. And never be afraid of using authentic, complex language with babies and young children, because that is how they learn it. So we do want them to be speaking their own languages in the fullest forms, and books give you this amazing way to connect into that rich language. That's part of their power. So there we've got the cat meow, the dog woof woof, and then we've got the sheep ba ba, and we've got the pig, and so on and so on. It just goes on. And then the nice little thing about it is that she gives you this little story arc, because then the owl is in the tree at night. There's the owl, and we can find out a whole lot about owls if we're interested. To woo, and I know that sometimes owls have got negative connotations. Other times they have positive ones. So that's something for later probably. But anyway, there's the owl, to and here's the little story of all the animals going back home in the evening. So often these little children's books or babies' books have a tiny story arc, which is just getting them into the idea of stories. This is another one that is called Go, I think, yeah. And so things that I might ask around this is, I wonder if baby elephant had delicious porridge like you had this morning. It's completely contextualized. If I'm sitting with a little child, I want to draw the child into the book. And so there's the elephant. That just might be something I might say something else, and you would say what felt right to you, but you're connecting to that little elephant. Look, baby rabbit is sitting in her pushchair, just like you do. I wonder where they're going today. And so you point to the little rabbit and wonder where they're going. And where do we go when you're in your pushchair? And so on and so on. There's a suitcase. I wonder whose suitcase that is, and who's in it. And then, of course, you've got who's in it. I hope not. What's in it? And, lots of little children have that experience of going, and where are they going to, and where are all these animals going to, and where do you go to? So it's also about remembering your experiences, helping children to remember their experiences by connecting to what the images in the book suggest. And there, of course, you can make all the sounds, and the whole implication for literacy development is that they are, as I said before, associating these little squiggles on the page, the black marks, with the words that come out of your mouth to them, and then they start repeating them. We'll look at that in a little while. So that's that one. And then here's another one, just these everyday occurrences that little children experience. Look, baby is clapping. Shall we clap too? So you take it from the book into real life. Clap handies, maybe you have a little rhyme, and then maybe you do the little rhyme, and then you go back to the book, or maybe the rhyme comes later. Day by day things with baby. Can you see? What can you see? It isn't, we're not wanting to test the child at all. We're never wanting to be testing them, but we're wanting to draw their attention to the illustrations, what the illustrations are depicting, what they're suggesting, and what they suggest to you is as important as what they suggest to the baby or the child. And hopefully it all comes together into this, what we call a literacy event, where there's lots of sharing and lots of interest. Okay, now online, on our website, the PRAESA website, I just want to point out to you that we are putting up all our old books, and of course there are plenty of others. So you've got Book Dash, which we already talked about, and so on, with these little books in many languages. I just happen to be very fond of our 16 little books for little hands, because we did them many, many years ago, and they've gone round different countries in Africa, in different African languages. Now, unfortunately, we can't get the funding to get them into, well, anyway, they are online in some of the languages. And these little books, again, it's the same kind of thing. This is also a numbery one. How many? And you see in young children's books how often you get repeated the same kind of rhythms of days, rhythms of routine, if you like, the getting dressed, the brushing the teeth, all those kind of things, the counting, the playing, babies' worlds, toddlers' worlds, what is going on in their world. So the books often represent those kind of things. So again, how many was just this, you can find online. How many yellow suns shine in the sky? How many fat hens peck in the yard? How many children jump and skip together? So there's like the words that repeat themselves over and over, and then there's often something to interact with that little children really love to do. And now let's just pause for a moment and have a look. I've put it here. We have several videos which you may or may not already know about, but which you might enjoy now. Let me see how clever I am. You might enjoy in the light of, oops, have I lost you? You might enjoy in the light of just going through this course with me. I'm going to now reshare and just show you the bit about babies in one of the videos, which you can find on our website.
What's that? It's never too early to share books with babies.
Why is
They love looking at pictures and listening to you. This bright colors. This bright colors. Yeah. To become a reader, you first need to be curious.
Sorry, what is this, baby? What does the duck say?
okay? Yeah. What's interesting there, I think, is that you see how very similar things are happening with babies and books. And one of the things that really is important, and we talked about it in the first session around our brains, how our brains work, that this rhythm and the rhyme of story, the rhythm of story, and really what happens with so the mom there who goes into the quack, 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 and she's actually doing it to twinkle, twinkle, little star. I mean, I urge everyone who is African language speaking to bring in the African rhymes, rhythms. You didn't see the video? Oh, Arabella, what happened there?
No, I saw it. It might be because people's view, it's the way they're looking at their screen. So it was on, it did reflect. It did reflect.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yeah.
Look, if you didn't see it, the link is there, and I will share the link on the chat, on the WhatsApp, for those of you who didn't see it, because you can actually go and go and watch it. Okay, Pumi, yeah. So, you know, the thing about what is very powerful for babies when they're learning to read, and about the reading aloud experience, why this is so powerful, is that you bring what the child knows to the page. And so that's why what that mum was doing there, the singing, a familiar rhyme song, is so powerful, because it is the oral tactic, really, of remembering by chunking meaningful pieces of sound together. And so, like, for example, and I think we saw a Umzi Wacha book. Okay, we need more books which take the songs, the rhymes, whatever they are, of Africa, and put into picture book form. This one isn't African, but I just wanted to show it to you as an example where it is literally row, row, row your boat, which some of you will know. So row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. I don't know who knows that, but here you have all the words of it. So one can really... Well, here they change the words slightly because you play around with them. Rock, rock, rock your boat gently down the stream. If you see a crocodile, don't forget to scream. And I'm sure there's a that happens after that. So, you know, then a little child picks up the book and then they immediately know what it says because they already know the rhyme. They already know the song. And they start to then, because they're having all these experiences with you, with the print, with the visuals, with what they're bringing to the text, they start to make sense of it in quite an organic way. Okay, so that's, yeah, and there's so many like that. Here's this little piggy, which would be very similar. There are a couple of baby books, board books that I did many years ago as well. Also just attempting to get the idea of board books into our communities. And these are very simple. It's just waking, dressing, drinking, eating. So everyday things that babies do. This baby smiles, this baby cries. And these books are just meant to be looked at and talked about, and maybe the words said. And if you don't have a book in your language, you can still, you can still talk to it completely in your language, because at that age, the baby doesn't actually understand the text, the print. They can't read it. However, the more you can have print in your language that you are communicating in, obviously the better, because then the child will begin to connect exactly what the print says with sorry, I'm trying to get back to... I'm distracted. Yeah. So we have to have books in African languages for babies, but when we don't have books for babies in African languages, we still can do a lot with what we find. I mean, I actually thought even a story like this, which is a New Africa book story called Afi and the Magic Drum, available in several of, I think, all African languages. If you were to look at Afi and the Magic Drum, story from Benin, if you were to look at this with a baby, one would just look, and you'd look with the baby and you'd say, oh, look, the little girl is walking, and there you go. I wonder who's walking with her. Is it Gogo with a TV on her head? And oh, wonder if they're tired. Maybe they look tired. You might say that. You might just sort of look and say, oh, look at that big parcel, or whatever you felt like saying. Oh, the little girl is sleeping under the tree like you like to sleep, and pretend to sleep. Some reason we have an owl there again in the story. Look, here comes a granddad, and he's waking up the little girl. I wonder what they're going to do. So and you may want to read these words. Wake up, little girl, he said. What is a little girl doing out here all by herself? She must be hungry. You might want to read that. And then if the baby looks away or grabs the book and throws it on the floor, that's fine. You're done with that book for the moment. Right. Okay, now, what's the time? I want to share with you, I hope I'm going to manage this. I'm sure some of you will have come across Eric Carle, The Very Busy Spider, which again, not a South African book, but available in South Africa. I think Random House Penguin published it, and I think, but I stand to be corrected, it might have gone into a couple of other languages. It might have. I tried to find it in other languages today, but I couldn't. So here it is, The Very Busy Spider. And the reason I want to share this with you is because I've got a nice little clip of a friend of mine with his daughter who's 19 months old, and he's reading The Very Busy Spider to her. And I want to show you him reading it. So I have to go to Facebook to do this, because that's where I found this, and I did get permission. So I am allowed to share this with you. Okay, so I'm going to start at the beginning and I want you to notice how at first this little girl is very distracted as they begin, and then just watch how she gets into the book.
A thin, silky thread trailed from her body. The spider landed on a fence post near a farmyard and began to spin a web with her silky thread. The little buzzer. What did the horse say? What did the horse say? Said the horse. Want to go for a ride? Spider was very busy spinning her web. Said the cow. Want to eat some grass? The spider didn't answer. She was very busy spinning her web. Bleated the sheep. Want to run in the meadow? Spider didn't answer. She was too busy spinning her web. Said the goat. Want to jump on the rocks? The spider didn't answer. She was very busy spinning her web. Grunted the pig. Want to roll in the mud? Spider didn't answer. She was very busy spinning her web. Barked the dog. Want to chase the cat? Spider didn't answer. She was very busy spinning her web. No. Mewed the cat. Want to take a nap? The spider didn't answer. She was very busy spinning her web. Called the duck. Want to go for a swim? The spider didn't answer. She had now finished her web. You want to touch her web? Touch the spider's web. What does it feel like? Does it feel nice? Crowed the rooster very loudly. Want to catch a pesky fly? What did the fly say? The spider caught the fly in her web, just like that. What did the spider do with the fly? Gobble, 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 gobble. Yum, 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 yum. Asked the owl. Who built this beautiful web? The spider didn't answer. She had fallen asleep. It had been a very long day.
Okay. So that is a nice demonstration of one way that one parent shares a book with his little 19-month-old child. And, you know, really, there is actually no right or wrong way of sharing a book with a baby or a toddler, except for it is really, really important that it is a positive experience. I don't want to say it has to be wildly fun all the time, although you could see there they did have fun. It was quite a low-key experience for the little girl, but she did at first find it very distracting to have, I think, her mother videoing her. So you can see how the videoing sort of interfered in a way with the event. So in a way, it was a bit of a performance. But at the same time, you saw how she did get into it. Anyone want to make any other comments about that? What can
Hi.
you... Hi.
Hi, Carol. Hi there. It's Naila here. So I noticed that the father isn't speaking like a baby. You know, he speaks as if he would read to an adult, which I think is quite important when you are speaking or engaging with young children.
That's a very useful point to make. Yes, so I think it is about the issue of respecting very young children as being able and capable. And
absolutely,
thank you for that. Yes, he does very much. He's very on the level with her, even though he allows for her to make her sounds in her own way. Yeah. Anything else anyone notice or want to note about that? I'll just quickly look on the chat. If you, Spoo, you saying communication between them is amazing. Yes, and can you sense that this is a regular event for them? In fact, the mom told me that this has been her absolute favorite book. So she now knows this book, and she's bringing her experience of this book to this reading, if you like. So she is not a novice reader at this point at 19 months. She's somebody who's experienced with books and with book sharing. And it's very different with children who haven't had the opportunity to sit quietly and to concentrate and share focus on a book experience. It's very different for them when a 5-year-old or 6-year-old or 7-year-old comes to school and the story reading that they experience is with them in a often quite big group of children and the teacher in front and the book away from them. It is a very, very difficult thing for children who have never had that experience of the close-up encounters in a very emotionally enveloping situation. It's very difficult for them then to concentrate and to focus and to find the same kind of enjoyment in the book experience. And so it's very difficult for teachers or for caregivers who are looking after large numbers of children. And that's why, again, this book sharing with tiny ones is so beneficial, and it does give the invitation, if you like, to family members at home to try and do this with their children, because it makes such a huge difference in the child's life, to the child's learning. And I heard this morning that this little girl, her new favorite now is, some of you might know this book. It's one of the Gruffalos, which in our contexts, we would call this a supplementary book. We wouldn't say it's for teaching reading, and we wouldn't say it's for toddlers to look at. If you listened to the way that we talk about teaching reading, we wouldn't say that this is a learning to read experience, nor would we say this book is a appropriate book for this age. So my caution is that we need to be very, very careful not to limit our babies, our young children, not to limit them to the sort of school version of what reading is all about. We've got to expand things for them so that they experience the richness. Okay, so a few kind of ideas about reading with little ones. I think it's really, really, really important to read through the books yourself. So that's still that same story of you fill up your inner library, sense how you like them, and notice what each book is suggesting to you. You are a unique person. You have your own ideas and body of experience, so you make the book your own. Then, as you noted in the chat, we talk about things, we think aloud about what's happening in the picture, what characters are doing. We try and be open-ended about it and not too not didactic. Draw attention to something or someone and say what it is, or say what you see. I mean, here, like in I Love Bananas, ooh, you know, your little child or your baby maybe doesn't have the vocabulary yet. And then maybe you say, oh, look at those lovely bananas. And maybe you go to somewhere there and you pull out a banana and you show the baby the banana. So you associate the real thing with you draw their attention to whatever it is that you feel is relevant. You make the sounds, you give them a chance to make the sound. So you pause, you let them predict or come in with what they know. Make expressions with face, voice, body. Remember the video that I shared with you of that little boy with the expressions on the adult's face. We can pretend to do actions like I showed you with the clapping, but it could be anything that's happening in the book you might like to invite the little child to do. And shall we do this? Shall we put on our coats now? Shall we put on our hats? Shall we brush our teeth? Some little children love brushing their teeth just because they've read books about teeth brushing and they identify with the character in the book. And be flexible. If they want to do things like hold onto a book or bang it rather than share it, like we saw in the video, that small baby had to put the book in their mouth because that's the only thing that they know what to do. Their senses, they have to do that. So that's why you need these sturdy books for babies as well, cloth books as well. And try again to refer to the book again. So if it goes off on one occasion, that doesn't mean that book is gone forever. You can always come back to it on another occasion. Or if the baby throws the book on the floor, which is a favorite, you often have the book going down on the floor like that. You pick it up and then you say, oh, look, there's a monkey. Shall we see what's you try and draw their attention back to what's there. Megan Cox-Gurdon again from this magnificent book, which I'll share properly with you at some point. It might be a teacher reading to a class, a mother reading to her children, a husband reading to his wife, or even a volunteer reading to a rescue dog. The act is simple, but its repercussions are complex and magnificent. And we're back to that warm fire here, the warm fire of a good story, the warm fire of the connection between the adults and the children, which I will end here also from a video that we made so many years ago. These children in this video are probably in their mid-20s now, but anyway, here you go.
There's not only one way to end the day, nor is there only one way to become literate.
Nangu uziya epusha ubathandwa, nangu kopani inyathela imbiza, nangu uphindi uthukile, nangu usipho. Yebo phela ngingumntwana isebenze kakhulu besisebenza imini yonke.
Watching Zia and her friends and family reminds us of the intuitive and seemingly effortless strategies young children have to learn about their world using language, play, and problem solving. No matter where they are, for this to flourish, they need empathetic, supportive adults who are prepared to listen, to learn from, and build on the experiences that children bring.
There you go. So that is from Feeling at Home with Literacy, which is worth watching if you have never seen it. Actually, it's also on our website. And I'm ending there. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Arabella.